Welcome to the audiobook of How to Deal with People, a timeless guide to mastering the art of human relations. Whether you're looking to build stronger connections, foster better communication, or simply understand the people around you, this book offers practical wisdom for improving your relationships and achieving success in every area of your life. Each chapter will provide you with valuable insights and tools to connect with others, boost your confidence, and navigate social situations with ease. By the end of this audiobook, you'll have a deeper understanding of how to deal with people, both personally and professionally. Chapter 1. Thinking creatively about human relations. All of us want two things out of life: success and happiness. All of us are different. Your idea of success may be different from mine. But there is one big factor which all of us must learn to deal with if we are to be successful and happy. The one common denominator to all success and happiness is other people. Various scientific studies have proven that if you learn how to deal with other people, you will have gone 85% of the way down the road to success in any business, occupation, or profession, and about 99% of the way to personal happiness. Merely getting along isn't the answer. What counts is a way to deal with people that will bring us personal satisfaction and, at the same time, not trample on others' egos. Human relations is the science of dealing with people in such a way that our egos and their egos remain intact. And this is the only method of getting along with people that ever results in any real success or satisfaction. The reason 90% of people fail in life is a failure to deal successfully with people. Look around you. Are the most successful people those with the most brains, or the most skill? Are the people who are the happiest and get the most fun out of life so much smarter than the other people you know? If you will stop and think a moment, the chances are that you will say that the people you know who are the most successful and enjoy life the most are those who have a way with people. Your personality problems are your problems with other people. There are millions of people today who are self-conscious, shy, and ill at ease in social situations. They feel inferior and never realize that their real problem is a human relations problem. It never seems to get across to them that their failure as a personality is a failure in learning to deal successfully with people. There are almost as many who, at least on the surface, seem to be the very opposite of the shy, retiring type. They appear to be self-assured. They are bossy and dominate any social situation they are in, whether it is the home, the office, or the club. Yet, they too realize that something is missing. They wonder why their employees or their families do not appreciate them. They wonder why people do not cooperate more willingly, why it is necessary to continually force people into line. And, most of all, they realize in their more candid moments that the people they are most anxious to impress never really give them the approval and acceptance they crave. They attempt to force cooperation, loyalty, and friendship, to push people to produce for them. But, the one thing they cannot force is the thing they want the most: they cannot force people to like them. They never really get what they want because they have never mastered the art of dealing with people. Whether we like it or not, people are here to stay. In our modern world, we simply cannot achieve any success or happiness without taking other people into account. The doctor, the lawyer, or the salesperson who enjoys the most success is not necessarily the one who is the most intelligent or the most skillful in the mechanics of his or her job. The husband and wife who are the happiest are not the ones who are the most attractive. Look for success in any endeavor and you will find someone who has mastered the knack of dealing with people, a person who has a way with others. Skill in human relations is similar to skill in any other field, in that success depends on understanding and mastering certain basic general principles. You must not only know what to do, but why you're doing it. As far as basic principles are concerned, people are all the same. Yet each individual person you meet is different. If you attempted to learn some gimmick to deal successfully with each separate individual you met, you would be faced with a hopeless task. Influencing people is an art, not a gimmick. When you apply gimmicks in a superficial, mechanical manner, you go through the same motions as the person who has a way, but it doesn't work for you. The purpose of this book is to give you knowledge based upon an understanding of human nature, why people act the way they do. The methods presented in this book have been tested on thousands of people who have attended my human relations seminars. They are not just my pet ideas of how you should deal with people, but ideas that have stood the test of how you must deal with people. That is, if you want to get along with them and get what you want at the same time. Yes, we all want success and happiness. And the day is long past, if it ever existed, when you could achieve these goals by forcing people to give you what you want. And begging is no better. No one has respect for, or any desire to help, the person who constantly kowtows and literally goes around with his hand out, begging other people to like him. The one successful way to get the things you want from life is to acquire skill in dealing with people. Read on and you will learn how. Chapter 2: Understanding the Human Ego. Because the human ego is such a precious thing to its possessor, and because a person will go to such extremes to defend against what he perceives as threats to his ego, the word egotism has a negative connotation. Let's look at the other side of egotism. If it can cause people to do silly, irrational, and destructive things, it can also cause them to act nobly and heroically. What is egotism anyway? Edward Bach, an editor and humanitarian, said that what the world calls ego and conceit is really a divine spark planted in man, and that only those who had lighted the divine spark within them ever accomplished great things. Whatever name you want to give it, human dignity, personality, or uniqueness, deep within the heart of everyone there is something that is important and demands respect. Every human being is a special, individual personality, and the most powerful drive in any person is to defend this important something against all enemies. This is why you cannot treat people as machines, as numbers, or as masses and get away with it. Every effort that has been made to deprive humans of this individual worth has failed. It is more powerful than armies and prison camps. It proved more powerful than feudal lords who tried to turn people into serfs. It proved more powerful than Hitler's armies, and it set the stage for our own land of the free. Our Declaration of Independence is really a declaration of independence for the individual. It is also important to note that our Declaration of Independence places the real worth of an individual as a gift of God. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights. This is not a book on religion, but in the final analysis, you cannot separate religion and human relations. Unless you believe that there is a Creator who has endowed us with unalienable rights, with an innate worth, you cannot very well believe in people. Henry Kaiser said that you would automatically practice good human relations if you would remember that every individual is important, because every individual is a child of God. This is also the only true basis for self-esteem. The person who realizes that they are something not because of what they have done or how good they have been, but by the grace of God endowing them with an innate worth, develops a healthy self-esteem. The person who doesn't realize this tries to gain significance by making money, gaining power or celebrity, or in other obvious ways. Not only are they what we call egotists, when we use that word in its negative sense, but their continual hunger for self-esteem is what causes most of the trouble in the world. For facts of life to print indelibly on your mind, we are all egotists. We are more interested in ourselves than in anything else. Every person you meet wants to feel important and wants to amount to something. There is a craving in everyone for the approval of others, so that he can approve of himself. We are all ego-hungry. And it is only when this ego is at least partially satisfied that we can forget ourselves, take our attention off ourselves and give it to something else. It is only those who have learned to like themselves that can be generous and friendly with others. What makes people self-centered and conceited? We used to think that the trouble with the egotist was that they thought too highly of themselves. We thought that if that person would give up their high self-regard, that they would be cured. The old methods society used to use to knock some of the self-importance out of these contrary, hard to get along with individuals never worked. All they ever did was make the other person even more hostile, and his ego even more sensitive. The reason these methods never worked is simple. We now know, without a doubt, that the self-centered, egotistical person is not suffering from too much self-esteem, but too little. If you are on good terms with yourself, you are on good terms with others. Once a person begins to like themselves better, then they are able to like others better. Once they get over their painful dissatisfaction with themselves, they are less critical and more tolerant of others. Ego hunger is as universal and natural as the hunger for food. And food for the ego serves the same purpose as food for the body, self-preservation. The body needs food to survive. And the ego, or unique individuality of each person, needs respect, approval, and sense of accomplishment. A starved ego is a mean ego. Comparing the ego to the stomach goes a long way toward explaining why people act as they do. A man who eats 3 good meals a day gives little thought to his stomach. But, let a man go without food for a day or two, become really hungry, and his whole personality changes. He becomes more critical, nothing pleases him, and he snaps at people. It will do no good to tell him that his problem is that he is stomach conscious and that he must get his mind off his stomach. There is only one way to cure him, and that is to accede to nature's demand for survival. Nature has placed an instinct in each creature that says, you and your basic needs come first. He must eat before he is capable of giving his attention to anything else. It is very much the same for the self-centered person. For a healthy, wholesome personality, nature demands a certain amount of self-acceptance and self-approval. It does no good to scold a self-centered person and tell them to take their mind off themselves. They cannot get their mind off themselves until their ego hunger has been satisfied. Only then will they take their attention off themselves and give it to work, to other people, or to whatever is necessary. When self-esteem is at a high level, people are easy to get along with. They are cheerful, generous, tolerant, and willing to listen to others' ideas. They have taken care of their own primary needs and are able to think about the needs of others. Their own personalities are so strong and secure that they are willing to take risks. They can afford to be occasionally wrong and can admit that they have made a mistake. They can be criticized and slighted, and take it in stride, for these things only make a small dent in their self-esteem, and they have plenty more left. It is a well-known fact that the man at the top is usually easier to deal with than his underlings. The story is told of a private in World War I who shouted, "Put off that damn match," only to find to his chagrin that the offender was General Black Jack Pershing. When he tried to stammer out an apology, General Pershing patted him on the back and said, "Just be glad that I'm not a second lieutenant. You have to lower yourself to be petty." When self-esteem is at a low ebb, trouble comes easily. And when self-esteem gets low enough, almost anything can become a threat. To that person, a critical look or a harsh word can seem like a calamity. The sensitive souls who see a dig or double meaning in even the most innocent remark are suffering from low self-esteem. And the braggart, the show-off, and the bully have the same problem. To deal with the trouble caused by low self-esteem in others, help them like themselves better. When an arrogant person attempts to put you in your place, you can understand this behavior by remembering 2 things. First, he needs desperately to increase his own self-importance and is attempting to do so by beating you down. Second, he is afraid. His self-esteem is at such a low ebb that one good put-down by you would shatter it altogether. And, although he is not certain that you would take a shot at his self-importance, he cannot afford to take that chance. The only safe strategy he can use is to put you down before you see him for what he really is. Do not add to the trouble by trying to beat him down. Avoid sarcastic, cutting remarks and arguing. If you win, you will only further decrease his ebbing supply of self-esteem and make him harder to deal with than before. Instead, feed his hungry ego. Turn a lion into a lamb, and he will stop growling and snapping at you. This tactic works on everyone, not just difficult personalities. Anyone is more agreeable, more understanding and more cooperative if you feed his ego, not with insincere flattery, but with genuine compliments and real praise. Look for good points in those you deal with, things about which you can praise them. Form the habit of paying at least 5 sincere compliments each day and watch how much smoother your relations with others become. Help others like themselves better. And do not attempt to apply this in a superior, patronizing manner. If you do, your assumption of superiority will only antagonize. The first law of human relations is, people act, or fail to act, largely to enhance their own egos. When you are trying to persuade someone to act in a certain way, and logic and reasoning fail, try a reason that will enhance his ego. Give others a personal reason to help you. A while back, I was in a city that was hosting a national convention. Unexpected business developments required me to spend the night. Having no reservation, I went to a hotel where I had frequently stayed. Working my way through the crowd at the front desk trying to get rooms, I got the attention of a familiar clerk. "Well, Les," he apologized, "you should have let us know you were coming. I can't do anything for you under the circumstances." "It looks like we have a problem," I replied, "but I know that if there's anyone in town who can find a solution, it's you. If you can't find me a room, I might as well give up and sleep in the park." "I don't know," he said, "but stick around for 30 minutes and I'll see if I can come up with something." The upshot was that he remembered a small living room used for informal conferences that could easily be turned into a bedroom by moving in his spare bed. I got the room and he got a sense of accomplishment and enhanced his ego by proving to both of us that, if anyone can do it, I can. Help others to like themselves better, satisfy their hunger for self-esteem. Chapter 3: The Importance of Making Others Feel Important. Everyone is a millionaire in human relations. The great tragedy is that too many of us hoard our wealth, dole it out stingily, or don't even realize we possess it. It is within your power to add to the feelings of personal worth of others. It is within your power to make them like themselves better. It is within your power to make them feel appreciated and accepted. The quickest way to improve your dealings with people is to begin giving away this wealth you possess. It doesn't cost you anything and you needn't fear you'll ever run out of it. Don't try to barter or bargain with it. Don't try to use it to bribe people into giving you what you want. Give it away indiscriminately. In doing so, you need not worry about getting what you want from others. When you cast this bread upon the waters, so to speak, it always comes back to you multiplied many-fold. Don't make the mistake of supposing that just because someone is successful or famous, that they have no need for a feeling of importance. Courtesy, politeness and manners are all based on this universal hunger of people to feel that they have some personal worth. Courtesy and politeness are merely ways in which we acknowledge the importance of the other person. All of us need to feel that we are important. We need to feel that other people recognize and acknowledge our importance. Actually, what we need is for other people to help us feel important, to help us confirm our sense of personal worth. To a large extent, our feelings about ourselves are reflections of the feelings other people seem to have about us. No one can maintain their dignity and worth if everyone he meets treats him as if he were worthless. This explains why little things, that are apparently unimportant actions, can have such tremendous consequences in the field of human relations. Have you ever heard the reasons people give for asking for a divorce? "He got a big kick out of telling everyone how stupid I was about money." Or, "She would make an issue out of feeding the cat before she fed me when she was cooking." They seem like small things, but when repeated, they tell the other person, "This proves I don't think that you're very important." Remember, it takes only one small spark to set off an explosion. And the little things you do and say can set off a chain reaction. You must recognize the other person. In their diplomatic dealings with other countries, governments speak of recognizing another country or according them recognition. We might take a lesson from this in our diplomatic relations with others. The principal causes of dissatisfaction among employees are failure to give credit for suggestions, failure to correct grievances, failure to encourage criticizing employees in front of others, failure to ask employees their opinions, failure to inform employees of their progress, favoritism. Note that every item has to do with failure to recognize the importance of the employee. For ways to make others feel important are, think other people are important. The first rule, and the easiest to apply, is simply to convince yourself once and for all that other people are important. Do this, and your attitude comes across to others, even when you are not trying. Moreover, it takes away the need for gimmicks and puts your human relations on a sincere basis. You can't make others feel important in your presence if you secretly feel that they are nobodies. After all, what else on earth is as important or as interesting as people? Notice people. Have you ever thought about the fact that you notice only those things that are important to you? Actually, you only see a fraction of what is around you. You select for attention only those things that are important. 5 people walking down the same street will probably note 5 different things, simply because they are interested in different things. Therefore, when someone notices us, they pay us a big compliment. They are saying that they recognize our importance and give a big boost to our morale. We become more friendly, more cooperative, and actually work harder. And don't forget that when you are dealing with a group, try to acknowledge everyone in the group. Don't compete with people. This requires some discipline as you are human and you have the same need to feel important that everyone else does. You must watch yourself that this does not backfire on you. The basic fact is that everyone needs to feel important and to feel that others recognize his importance. This trait of human nature is in itself neutral. You can use it to your own advantage or disadvantage, just as you can use a knife to butter your bread or cut your throat. The temptation is always present when we are dealing with others to impress upon them our own importance. Consciously or unconsciously, we want to make a good impression. If someone tells us of some great feat he performed, we at once think of something that was even greater. If someone tells us a good story, right away we think of one that could top it. Often, we are so anxious to impress others with our own importance that we can make him feel small so that we will appear larger. There is one simple rule that will help you get over this handicap. If you want to make a good impression on others, the most effective way is to let them know that you are impressed by them. Let them know that they impress you, and they will judge you one of the smartest, most personable individuals they have met. Compete with them, and they will be firmly convinced that you are a fool who doesn't know his way around. Know when to correct others. Usually when we correct or contradict others, it is not for the purpose of settling any real problems. It is usually to increase our feeling of importance at the expense of others. Ask yourself, does it make any real difference whether they are right or wrong? Don't try to win all the little battles. If nothing is involved except the other person's ego, why bother? The negative impact you create far outweighs the small victory for your own ego. Chapter 4: Controlling the Actions and Attitudes of Others. Remember Svengali, the mesmerist, who controlled the actions and behavior of people by a mysterious power? It may surprise you that each of us, in our way, is something of a Svengali. We are not mesmerists, but we do exercise control over people. The only trouble is that we do not know that we are exercising this power, and we often use it against ourselves rather than for ourselves. Each of us is constantly influencing and controlling the actions and attitudes of those with whom we come in contact. The choice we have is, shall we use it for good or evil, for our benefit or our disadvantage? It may surprise you to learn that in many of the cases in which you were treated discourteously, or someone acts unreasonably towards you, that you may have asked for that treatment. You have to adopt the attitude you want others to express. People react and respond in a like manner to the attitude and action expressed by others. You get amazing results when you start putting this theory into effect. Everyone wants to do the appropriate thing. We act out our parts in life according to the stage that is set before us. There is an unconscious urge to live up to the opinions others seem to have of us or to live down to them. In dealing with others, we see our own attitude reflected back to us in their behavior. It is as though we were standing before a mirror. When we smile, the person in the mirror smiles, when we frown, they frown, and when we shout, they shout back. Knowing this, you can control others' emotions to an amazing degree. When you find yourself in an explosive situation that seems likely to get out of hand at any moment, lower the tone of your voice and keep it soft. This will literally force others to keep their voices soft also. They can't become angry and emotional as long as they keep their voice pitched in a soft tone. If you wait until the other person becomes angry, it won't work. But you can turn the anger away before it arrives by using this technique. Enthusiasm is catching. Enthusiasm is more catching than a cold, and so are indifference and lack of enthusiasm. You can never sell anything to anyone until you are sold on it yourself. Confidence breeds confidence. Just as you can make others enthusiastic with your enthusiasm, you can give people confidence in you by acting confidently. It is a sad but true fact that many of mediocre ability get further than those who have outstanding talents because they know how to act confidently. All the great leaders know this. For example, Napoleon went out boldly to meet the French army when they were sent out to get him after his first exile. By acting with supreme confidence, as if he expected the army to take commands from him, the soldiers marched back behind him. John D. Rockefeller used the same technique. When a creditor suggested that he would like to have his bill paid, Rockefeller would reach for his checkbook with a flourish. "Which would you rather have?" he would ask, "cash or Standard Oil stock?" He appeared so calm and confident that nearly all opted for the stock and none ever regretted it. If you believe in yourself and act as if you believe in yourself, others will believe in you. Put some magnetism in your personality. Confidence has a way of showing itself in subtle ways. While we may have never analyzed why we have confidence in a certain person, subconsciously, we all judge others by these little signs or clues. Watch your walk, your physical actions express your mental attitude. If you see someone walking with drooped shoulders, you think their burdens are too heavy to bear. They seem to be carrying the heavy weight of discouragement and despair. If something is weighing down someone's spirit, it invariably weighs down their body and they droop. See someone walking with head and eyes down and you are looking at a pessimistic soul. A timid person walks with unsure, hesitant steps, as if they were afraid to let go. A confident person steps out boldly. Their shoulders are back, their eyes are looking out and up to a goal they feel certain that they can attain. Your tattletale handshake tells the other person far more than you suspect about the way you feel about yourself. A person with a limp, dish-rag handshake is low on self-confidence. The bone crusher is apt to be compensating for a lack of self-esteem. The firm handshake with just a little squeeze in it says, "I've got a firm grasp of things," and denotes self-confidence. Moderate your tone of voice. We express ourselves through our voices more than in any other manner. The voice is the most highly developed means of communication. Your voice communicates more than ideas, it also betrays your feelings about yourself. Listen to your voice. Does it express hopelessness or courage? Have you gotten into the habit of whining? Do you speak up confidently or mumble? Use the magic switch of a smile. A real, sincere smile turns on a friendly feeling in others. Don't try to smile as a facial expression, but smile from within. Everyone is blessed with a good smile, it's just a matter of letting it out. If you're not using your smile, you're like someone with $1 million in the bank and no checkbook. The only way to make people do better is to follow the advice of Winston Churchill. I have found that the best way to get another to acquire a virtue is to impute it to them. Let others know that you think they can be trusted and they will be trustworthy. People who try to make others improve by shaming, threatening, or advising on what they ought to do rarely succeed. And often they make matters worse. No one is totally good or bad, we all have different sides to our personalities. The side that we present is the side that others bring out in us. Use communication and psychology to bring out a good and generous side in others. Begin today to develop an enthusiastic, confident attitude and manner. Speak out. Watch your posture. Hold your head up. Walk with a confident step as though you had somewhere important to go. Chapter 5: Creating a Good Impression. The manner in which we approach others, our very first words and actions, nearly always set the tone for the entire encounter. You can control the actions and attitudes of others to a remarkable extent if you remember to start a conversation on the same note on which you want it to end. If you're discussing business, start off in a businesslike tone. If you wish to be informal, begin in an informal manner. Others will rise to the occasion. They will act out their role in the stage setting that you create. Every time you have dealings with others, you are setting a stage. If you set the stage for comedy, don't be serious. If you set the stage for tragedy, don't expect others to be frivolous. It just didn't come off, we say of a meeting or interview that didn't go as we would have liked. Nearly always, when this happens, it is because we got off on the wrong note. Before you go into any kind of discussion, ask yourself, what do I really want from this? What mood should prevail? Then create the tone that will set the stage. We can control the actions and attitudes of others by remembering that the very first impression we give is apt to be a lasting impression. You are more responsible for how you are perceived than anyone else. Many worry what others will think of them. The world forms its opinion of us largely from the opinion we have of ourselves. If you aren't accepted as well as you would like to be, perhaps you should blame yourself. Act as if you're a nobody, and the world will take you at face value. Act as though you're somebody, and the world has no choice but to treat you as a somebody. Don't wear a disguise. Subconsciously, we are all smarter than we realize. The conscious mind may not be smart enough to analyze and see through the disguises people wear, but our subconscious is. And our subconscious tells us that the person putting on an act doesn't really think well of themselves. How many people create a poor impression because you are judged not only on the value you place on yourself, but you are also judged by the value you put on other things, your job, your opinions, and your competition. The Bible says, "Judge not that ye be not judged yourself." That is a good lesson for human relations. Every time we judge something, we give others a clue to judging us. What value do you place on your job, on your company? When someone asks you where you work, do you answer half apologetically, "Oh, I work at the People's Bank," as if you were ashamed of the fact? Or do you say proudly, "I work at the best bank in this part of the country"? Others will think more of you if you give the second answer. If you give the impression that your employer, or anything else about you isn't much, others will think that you couldn't be much either. Don't knock the competition. Never knock others or their products if you want to make a good impression. Instead, boost your own product. Not only do people dislike negative talk, but you are setting a negative stage. If you're selling, you have created a negative mood and will have difficulty getting a prospect to say yes. Put others in a yes mood by creating a positive and affirmative atmosphere. One good rule is to get others to say yes to preliminary questions. "Isn't this a beautiful color?" or "Don't you agree this is fine workmanship?" After someone has said yes a few times to your preliminary questions, it will be easier for them to say yes to your big question. But, yes questions can sometimes be negative. "Isn't the heat terrible today?" or "The world is sure in a mess, isn't it?" Set a negative mood with a yes answer. Pessimistic, gloomy people are usually cautious and hesitant. Cheerful, optimistic people buy products and ideas. They are more generous, more willing to expand, and to take a chance. Don't ask questions or issue instructions that imply you expect trouble. Pose questions that set up the answer. I believe you like this, don't you, instead of, do you like this? Nod your head affirmatively when you ask questions. Your actions definitely influence the opinions and actions of the other person. Calmly assume that others will do what you want. Sound the keynote for the entire theme when you begin. Don't try too hard to impress. Let others know that they are making a good impression. Chapter 6: Developing an Attractive Personality. What is the secret of an attractive personality? We all know people who seem to naturally attract friends and customers. These people know how to feed the three basic hungers of all people: acceptance. It is essential that you accept people as they are, allow them to be themselves. Don't insist that anyone be perfect or change before you can like them. Don't fashion a moral straitjacket and expect others to wear it in order to gain your acceptance. A critical, fault-finding person, who always sees where people fall short and can usually suggest a remedy, is never going to be stampeded by those hoping to become close friends. Those who accept and like people, accepting them just as they are, have the most influence in changing others' behavior for the better. No one has the power to reform another. But by liking others as they are, you give them the power to change themselves. Approval. This goes further than acceptance, which is somewhat negative in comparison. We accept others despite their faults and still afford them our friendship. Approval means something more positive, as it goes beyond just tolerating faults and finds something we can like. You can always find something to approve of in others. It may be something small or insignificant, but let others know that you approve of that, and the number of things that you sincerely approve of will grow. When others get a taste of your approval, they will begin to change their behavior so that they can gain approval for other things. Seek things out, praise, and watch people glow. Appreciation. The word appreciate means to raise in value. Stop and consider how valuable others are to you: your wife, husband, children, boss, employees, customers. Emphasize their value in your mind. Then figure out ways to let others know you highly value them. Here are some ways that you can show appreciation. Don't keep people waiting. If there is someone you cannot see immediately, acknowledge their presence. Let them know that you will be with them as soon as possible. Thank people. Treat people as special. The last item is worth additional comment. Nothing is more deflating to the ego than to get the routine treatment. We all want to be recognized for our own unique worth. And lastly, take a lesson from the flowers. Because they need bees to pollinate them, they put out a few drops of nectar to attract and feed the bees. A person with an attractive personality offers food to feed the basic hunger of people. Start using the AAA formula for attracting people. Chapter 7: Learning to Communicate Effectively. One thing successful people have in common is skill in using words. Earning power and word skill are so closely tied together that you can safely expect to increase your earnings simply by increasing your word power. Happiness, too, depends to a great extent upon our ability to express ideas, desires, hopes, or disappointments. Many people are unhappy because they are unable to express themselves, and they carry their ideas and emotions bottled up inside. Many people are handicapped if they do not know how to start a conversation, especially with a stranger. They have a wealth of interesting ideas on tap, if they only knew how to turn on the spigot. William James hit the nail on the head when he explained the reason so many find it difficult to be good conversationalists. They are afraid of either saying something too trivial and obvious, or something insincere, or, in some way or other, saying something not adequate to the situation. Stop trying to be perfect. No one can fascinate every minute. Small talk isn't supposed to be brilliant. Everyone is trite, everyone engages in small talk that doesn't say anything clever or significant. Small talk is necessary to get the wheels of conversation turning. Realizing this and not being afraid of being dull will enable you to start a conversation even with a perfect stranger. You may be surprised to find that you are saying clever and interesting things because you aren't trying to do so. Warm up your subject. Starting a conversation involves a warm-up period. Don't expect to be hot at the beginning. Small talk not only can start a conversation for you, but it can be used to unlimber others. Get people talking about themselves. The next time you are introduced to someone and cannot think of a thing to say, try warming up the other person with questions like, "Where are you from? What do you think of our weather? Do you have a family? What business are you in?" These questions get others talking about themselves and are surefire openers. They break the ice and they show that you are interested in them. You don't have to search for a topic of mutual interest. You start them off on the one topic on which they are experts, themselves. The art of being a good conversationalist consists not so much of thinking up a lot of clever things to say, or heroic experiences you can relate, but in opening up others and getting them to talk. If you can stimulate others to talk, you will acquire a reputation as a good conversationalist. If you can keep others talking, nothing will work better to get them to open up to you and your ideas. Ask questions to interest others. Keep the conversation steered to the other person's interests by asking the questions: why? Where? How? If someone says, "I've got a little 25-acre place back home in Indiana," don't rush in with, "Well, I own 500 acres in Texas." Instead, ask, "Where in Indiana? How long have you had it?" These, and other questions like it, will gain you a reputation of being one of the most interesting people your companion has ever met. There is a deadly sin in human relations that you need to avoid. Humans are innately selfish. They are first, last, and always interested in themselves. Show that you are interested in others, and they will subsequently get interested in you. Don't be like the playwright who, after talking about himself and his work for over 2 hours, turned to his companion and said, "But that's enough about me. Let's talk about you. What do you think about my plays?" You are human too, and it is natural to be tempted to talk about yourself. You want to shine. You want to impress others. But you will rate much higher in others' estimation if you turn the conversation to them rather than to yourself. Others will have a much higher opinion of you. Ask yourself, what do I want out of this situation? Do you want to enhance your own ego? Or do you want the other person's approval, business, permission, or goodwill? If all you want is to inflate your own ego, then talk about yourself exclusively, but don't expect to get anything else out of the conversation. Public speakers talk about themselves. But these people are invited to do so and their audience is voluntary, not captive. Unless you have hired a hall and advertised in advance, your listeners will have no way of knowing that they are going to be held captive to your exploits. Talk about yourself when you are invited and asked. If others are interested, they will ask. Then talk a little about yourself, but don't overdo it. Answer questions and then turn the spotlight back to them. Use the Me Too technique. Another time when it is correct to bring yourself into the conversation is when you can tell the other person something about yourself that will tie into something they have said, or form a bond between you. If someone says, "I was raised on a farm," and you say, "I was too," and tell a little something about your experiences, it makes them feel more important. The reason for bringing yourself into the conversation in a way that forms a bond is flattering to others. By doing so, you are saying, "I agree with you. I like that too. I believe in that myself." Anything about you or your past that is similar to others will help them to like you. We like people who agree with us and dislike people who disagree. Those who disagree are a potential threat to our self-esteem. When you agree, you help the other person like himself. Even if there are points on which you must disagree, always seek out points on which you can agree. When you have established some ground, however small, on which you can agree, it will be much easier to come together on those on which you disagree. Use happy talk. A person who falls into the habit of talking pessimistically, of constantly relating his personal problems, isn't going to win any popularity contests. If you have personal problems, go to your pastor, a counselor, or a trusted friend. Don't air troubles in public. Don't go on about your ailments and operations. Describing your suffering doesn't make you a hero, it makes you a bore. Sit right down and write yourself a letter. If you have something on your chest that you need to relieve, try writing yourself a letter. Put down exactly how you feel, don't hold back. Go into detail about how you have been wronged, how unfair life is. Then, when you are through, burn the letter. It has served its purpose in giving you an outlet, and you should experience relief. It will drain off your emotions and alleviate the compelling need to tell people. Sometimes, you may need to repeat this or do it 3 times. But, after that, you'll find that you no longer want to think about it, much less talk about it. Overcome the temptation to tease and be sarcastic. Most of us tease others because we think that they will like it. Husbands tease their wives, and vice versa, in public, out of the mistaken notion that it is a cute way to show affection. We make sarcastic remarks hoping that others will recognize our cleverness, see the humor, and not take personal offense. Teasing and sarcastic remarks are both aimed at the self-esteem of others. And anything that threatens self-esteem is dangerous business, even when done in fun. If the other person has known you long enough, likes you well enough, and you do not overdo it, you may get away with teasing. But, the odds are so great against it, that it is much safer not to try. Start today to utilize these methods to improve your communication skills. Practice on strangers. Keep at it day after day until it becomes habit. Chapter 8, Listening. Oliver Wendell Holmes wrote, "To be able to listen to others in a sympathetic and understanding manner is perhaps the most effective mechanism in the world for getting along with people and tying up their friendship for good." You meet with someone, and after leaving, you feel that things didn't go as you would have liked. What could I have said to make him more friendly, more amenable to my ideas, you ask? Surprisingly, the answer may be nothing. You did poorly, not because of anything you said or failed to say, but because you didn't listen properly. Listening makes you clever. Most of us want others to think that we are clever and intelligent. The one sure way to convince people of that is to listen and pay attention to what they have to say. The fact that you place enough importance on what they are saying to listen attentively convinces them that you are a very smart person. Think of your friends and acquaintances. Who has a reputation for being wise and intelligent? Is it the person who is always ready with the answer even before he hears the question? Is it the person who interrupts to give a comment before others finish? Or is it the person who does a lot of listening? People will tell you what they want if you'll listen. You can't make a hit in the dark. Automakers keep a pulse on what the public wants before they design their cars. And you have to respond properly to the ball that's thrown to you. You must continually make appropriate responses. Good human relations is two-way communication, give and take, action and response. If you don't know what others want, or how they feel about a situation, or what their particular needs are, you are out of touch with them. And if you can't touch them, you can't move them. Too much talk gives you away. Sometimes there are situations in dealing with others where it is important that we do not show our hand prematurely, and where we need to feel out the positions of others. The strategy used is to first find out what others know, what they will settle for before showing your hand. Just as we can determine another's position by listening to them, too much talk on our part gives our position away. Successful people encourage others to talk and to keep on talking while they keep their mouths shut. If you can get others to talk enough, they cannot disguise real feelings or motives. They may try, but they invariably will give themselves away. So, if you don't want others to know what's really on your mind, keep your mouth shut and listen. Others will find you out if you just keep talking long enough. Listening helps overcome self-consciousness. Listening carefully to what others have to say, paying strict attention to their tone of voice and inflection of words, gets your focus of attention off of yourself. If all your attention is on others, what they are saying, what they want, what they need, you can't be self-conscious and therefore shut off. When you're shut off, you can't deal with others effectively. And, if all of your focus is on yourself, you cannot deal with the world around you. It's not wrong to think highly of yourself, but it doesn't work to keep all of your attention on yourself. Don't try too hard. William James said that the reason most conversations are dull is that people do not relax, and therefore increase their chances of saying something really appropriate. You have to know what people want, what they need, and who they are in order to deal with them effectively. You must listen carefully, sympathetically, and patiently. One of the highest compliments you can pay is to listen to someone. You increase their self-esteem, for everyone likes to think that they have something to say that is worth saying. One of the most deflating things that you can do to another's ego is to brush them off before hearing what they have to say. People like having attention paid to them. Practice the art of listening. Point 1. Look at the person who is talking. People worth listening to are worth looking at. And it will also help you concentrate on what they are saying. 2. Appear deeply interested. If you agree, nod your head. If they tell a story, smile. Respond to cues. Point 3. Lean towards the person. Ever notice how you tend to lean towards an interesting speaker and away from a dull one? 4. Ask questions. This lets people know that you are still listening. 5. Don't interrupt, instead, ask for more. People are highly complimented if you allow them to finish without interruption. But, they are really flattered when you draw them out with, "Would you mind elaborating on that last point?" 6. Stick to the speaker's subject. Don't change subjects no matter how anxious you are to get on to a certain topic. 7. Use the speaker's words to get your point across. Repeat some of the points covered. This not only proves that you've been listening, but it allows you to introduce your own ideas without opposition. Preface your own remarks with, "As you pointed out." Chapter 9, Getting People to Agree. Every day, some situation arises where we need to persuade another person to accept our viewpoint. Some disagreement comes up with our mate, children, boss, employee, customer, neighbor, friend, or enemy. The natural response is to argue. We must learn to make our natural response persuasion. When someone opposes our ideas, we take it as a threat to our ego. We become emotional and hostile and try to ram our ideas down our opponent's throat. We exaggerate our own arguments and ridicule our opponent's points. This way does not win. The only way to win an argument is to get others to change their minds. There are ways to induce others to see things your way. Low pressure is the secret. It all boils down to the theme of this book. If you want to have power with people, you must learn to work with human nature rather than against it. Tell someone their ideas are stupid, and they will defend them forever. Ridicule their position, and they have to save face. Use threats, and they simply close their minds against your ideas, regardless of how good they may be. One of the strongest instincts is self-survival, and that means ego as well as the body. For our own protection, we have to be careful about the ideas we accept and act upon. We immunize ourselves against ideas perceived as alien. Friends don't come at us hammer and tongs, so we just close our ears to ideas dressed up like enemies. When we attempt to sell ideas, we must appeal to the subconscious, because no idea is really accepted until the subconscious mind accepts it. A man convinced against his will is of the same opinion still describes someone who has agreed to an idea with his conscious mind only. He gives lip service and appears to agree, but he will not act on the idea. There is only one way to get an idea accepted by the subconscious: by suggestion. Try to slip an idea into someone's subconscious more or less unnoticed. You will be successful in winning arguments to the degree that you succeed in slipping your ideas past the ego of the other person. His ego stands guard at the entrance to his subconscious. If it is aroused, it will not let your ideas pass. Rules for winning arguments: allow others to state their case. Don't interrupt, remember to listen. A person with something to say has their mind set for talking. Until they have said their piece, they are not tuned to listen to your ideas. If you want your ideas heard, learn to listen to their ideas first. Asking others to repeat their key points is very helpful when someone is agitated. Allowing them to vent reduces their hostility. Pause before you answer. This works equally well in conversation where there is no difference of opinion. When you are asked a question, look at the person and pause slightly before answering. This lets others know that you consider what he has said of sufficient importance to think about it. A slight pause is all that is needed. Pause too long and you give the impression that you are hesitant or evasive. If you must disagree, the slight pause is very important. If you respond with an immediate no, it makes others feel that you are not interested enough to take time with their problems. Don't insist on winning 100%. When we get into an argument, most of us attempt to prove that we are totally in the right and others are wrong. Skillful persuaders always concede something and find some point of agreement. If the other person has a point in their favor, acknowledge it. If you give in on minor and unimportant points, others will be more likely to give in to the big one. State your case moderately and accurately. We have to watch the tendency to exaggerate when our ideas are opposed. Calmly stated facts are the most effective in getting others to change their minds. Forceful methods may seem to work at first. You can beat another down, show them up, get them to the point where they can't say a thing. Your audience applauds. You have won the argument, or so it seems. But the other person has not accepted your viewpoint and will not act upon your ideas. Speak through third parties. The lawyer who wants to win cases rounds up witnesses who testify to the points he wants to put over to the jury. The argument is more convincing if disinterested third parties describe events. Salespeople use testimonials of satisfied customers. Candidates for political office solicit endorsements. Speaking through third parties can be particularly valuable when there is a difference of opinion and you want others to see things your way. People are naturally skeptical of you when you say things to your own advantage. Additionally, statements by third parties are much less likely to arouse the egos of others. Statistics, records, history, and quotes can all be cited. Allow others to save face. There will be many times that others would gladly change their minds and agree with you except for one thing: they have already made a definite commitment, a strong stand, and cannot change position in good grace. To agree with you requires them to admit that they were wrong. Skillful persuaders know how to leave the door open so that others can escape from their previous position without losing face. Otherwise, they may find themselves prisoners of their own logic. If you can persuade another, you not only must convince them, but you must also know how to rescue them from their own argument. The first method is to assume that they did not have all the facts. I felt the same way about it at first, until I ran across this information, which changed the picture. The second method is to suggest some way that they can pass the buck to another. Chapter 10: Giving Praise. Praise releases energy. Ever notice how, when someone pays you a sincere compliment, or thanks you for a job well done, your spirits seem to soar? Praise gives us new energy and new life. The lift that you get from praise is not an illusion, nor is it your imagination. In some way, actual physical energy is released. At this point, you may be thinking, what has praise got to do with getting along with people? The answer is everything. Few of us realize just how important it is to be given credit for one's work, to be accorded recognition and praised for a job well done. People everywhere are hungry for praise and appreciation. When we give others what they hunger for, they are much more likely to be generous in giving us what we want from them. Perform a small miracle each day. Anytime you can give another's spirits a lift, or imbue them with more life and energy, you are performing a small miracle. It's simple. All you have to do is to give sincere praise to someone each day, and notice how it actually enables them to do better. Honest praise, and giving credit where it is due, not only makes people feel better, but allows them to work more productively. When bonuses and profit sharing are based on merit, as a means of recognizing worth to the company, production improves. Be generous with kind statements. Don't wait until people do something big or unusual to praise them. If someone does you a small favor, show your appreciation and give them credit by saying thank you. Look for things for which you can thank people. Say those kind words. Let people know how you feel. Don't take it for granted that people know you appreciate them, tell them. When you let people know that you appreciate their actions, it makes them want to do more and better. Rules for saying thank you: thanks should be sincere. Say it as if you mean it. Put some meaning and life into it. Don't let it be offhand or routine. Make it special. Don't mumble it, speak up. Don't act as though you are half ashamed to have to thank someone. Thank people by name. Personalize your thanks by naming people. If there are several people in the group to be thanked, don't just say, "Thanks, everyone," but name each person. Look at people when you thank them. If they are worth being thanked, they are worth being looked at. Work at thanking people. Consciously and deliberately begin to look for things for which to thank others. Thank people when they least expect it. A thank you is even more powerful when others don't expect it, or necessarily feel that they deserve it. You can boost your own happiness by deliberately looking for good things in others. In doing this, it takes our minds off ourselves. It makes us less self-conscious, less self-righteous, and more tolerant and understanding. One of the sure earmarks of unhappy people is that they are overly critical. They deliberately look for things with which to find fault. When they change their attitude to look for good things in people, their own happiness increases. No one is perfect. It is said that there is good in everyone. If there is someone who irritates you, begin looking for something for which you can compliment them. If they bite your head off, maybe they have nice teeth. So, compliment them on their teeth. Keep looking for things to praise. Not only will it change them, but it will change your opinion of them. The important aspects of administering praise are: it must be sincere. Mere flattery is transparent and accomplishes nothing. There is always something that deserves praise if you look for it. It is far better to praise people for something little and mean it, than something big and be insincere. Praise the act or the attribute rather than the person. Praise people for what they do, rather than who they are. When you praise an act or an attribute, your praise is specific and sounds more sincere. People know exactly what they are being praised for. Increase your own happiness and peace of mind by paying 5 sincere compliments a day, as recommended in Chapter 2. Chapter 11: Criticizing others without offending them. Most of the time when we say to people, "I'm telling you this for your own good," we're not. We are pointing out some fault in them to bolster our own ego. One of the most common failings in human relations is the way we attempt to increase our own feeling of self-worth by lowering the self-esteem of others. However, there are going to be times when we must point out errors and correct those working with or for us. Done correctly, this is truly an art, and one that few have mastered. Look at criticism in a new light. Because the art of effective criticism is so little known, and because most people are so inept at it, the word criticism leaves a bad taste in our mouths. But the real art of criticism is not to beat others down, but to build them up. It is not to hurt feelings, but to help people do a better job. The essentials of successful criticism. Criticism must be made in absolute privacy. If you want your criticism to take effect, you must not engage the other's ego against you. Remember, your goal is to achieve a good end result, not to deflate their ego. Even if you have pure motives and the right spirit, it's how they feel about it that counts. The mildest form of criticism made in the presence of others is likely to be resented. Justified or not, they lose face before their associates. Whether or not you observe this rule is a good indication of your real motives in criticizing. Do you criticize only when you have an audience? If so, your real purpose is not to help others, but to derive ego satisfaction. Preface criticism with a kind word or compliment. Kind words, compliments, and praise have the effect of creating a friendly atmosphere. It puts others at ease and keeps their defenses down. Praise and compliments open minds to what needs to be said. Make the criticism impersonal, criticize the act, not the person. Here again, you can sidestep egos by criticizing actions or behavior, not the person. By pinpointing your criticism to their actions, you can pay them a compliment and build up their ego at the same time. I know from past experience that this error is not typical of your usual performance. Supply the answer. When you tell others what they did wrong, tell them how to do it right. The emphasis should not be on the mistake, but on the way to correct it and avoid a recurrence. One of the biggest complaints is, "I don't know what is expected of me." Most people are anxious to do right if you tell them what right is. Ask for cooperation, don't demand it. Asking always brings more cooperation than demanding. Will you make these corrections? Arouses much less resentment than, "Do this over, and this time see that you get it right." You'll get much further if you give people an incentive for wanting to change, rather than issuing an order to do so. One criticism to an offense. To call attention to an error one time is justified, twice is unnecessary, 3 times is nagging. Remember your goal in criticizing: to get a job done, not to win an ego fight. When you're tempted to dredge up the past, or rehash a mistake that is over and done, remember that it is ineffective for you to keep harping. Finish in a friendly fashion. Until an issue has been resolved on a friendly note, it hasn't been finished. Don't leave things hanging to be brought up later. Get it settled and bury it. Finish with a vote of confidence: "I know I can count on you." You must write the ending to this book. When I set out to write this book, I had one purpose in mind: to help you improve your human relations and get more happiness and success out of life. This book won't be finished until that goal is achieved. Put the principles in this book to work, and you will achieve success and happiness. Best of luck.